the squares on our screens right now. Thanks for joining us for today's event. My name is Amal with Women in Leadership Foundation Ottawa, and this is the first of our career coaching virtual series. We're going to be talking later on about resilience training and then imposter syndrome. Today, we're talking about pivoting during a downturn, something many of us are being or have been forced to do, and something some of us are looking into doing. So to help with that, we've got career and personal development coach, recruiter, Elena Klitko. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to leave it in the chat below because we're going to have a Q&A afterwards. Here's Elena.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. Well, I just wanted to, drop a couple lines about myself. I live in Ottawa. And I've been in recruitment myself for the past 8 years, mainly in tech. That's what I say usually my bread and butter, because I'm pretty well versed with anything related to IT technologies and hiring within IT environment. I am married, I'm 31, and I have a cat and dog, no kids yet. I'm also a certified coach within a very prestigious school in Canada. It's Integral Coaching Canada. So I graduated with their certificate last year, and since then I've been practicing career coaching and personal development coaching. So today, let me just share my screen so that you can see the presentation. Today, we will be talking about pivoting during a downturn. So my presentation is basically, I tried to make it as practical as possible. And this is basically a guidelines for those who have lost their jobs and or are looking for a transition for a new career or for career change. So what is inside? I'll be covering topics like what to do when you've lost your job. That's going to be the first aid. Then we're going to be discovering how to identify the new direction. And different ways to do that. Self-inventory and gap analysis is an important step on this way as well. Updating your materials, that being said, it's a cover letter, LinkedIn, and resume, of course. Then I'm gonna speak about the search strategy, and I'm gonna give you a little bit more insights on networking and maintaining relationship, which is I know it sounds like a buzzword these days, but it's really, really important, and it's important to know how to do it. And then market trends of 2021 and onward. All right, so sorry. So what happens when this happens, when you've lost your job? And I'm sure this is a pain point for many people who are in retail and hotel and restaurant management industry these days. So step number one that I usually recommend, and I use this myself, get some fresh air and just let yourself live through this first wave of emotions fully. This is really important because like that, you maintain this body and mind connection. And then as you're allowing yourself to take some time, I usually put the limit of like maybe 1 to 2 days. I literally tell myself, okay, I have 2 days to really be in panic and maybe cry a little bit. And then I have to get collected, get back on track, and get the food haul back. Step number two, and this is really important to know, I find, because I didn't come across anyone really thinking of it that deep. You have to protect your self-esteem. And what you really have to know is when we're speaking about our professional persona, not about who we are as a person, our professional persona would consist of 4 different components. So the first component would be your industry knowledge. So obviously you're working within a specific industry and you know its trends and scenarios. Then the second component would be general job related skills, which of course, because you're a professional within a certain maybe job description or within a certain area, you have certain skills that were a part of your professional journey for I don't know, some time. Then company specific skills, so something that you've been applying within a specific organization that you're working with right now, and your soft skills. So think about that way. when you lose your job, the only component of your professional persona that you actually lose and leave behind with that company is your company specific skills. So some kind of processes that are being established and maintained in a specific company, some kind of their ways to do things. But in the meantime, you still have your industry knowledge, you still have your general job related skills, and you still have your personal traits and soft skills that definitely will be helping you along the way. So like that, when you think about that way, about it that way, you'll be protecting your self-esteem. Remind yourself that you are not your job. You are absolutely the same person as you were before, and you will be the same person tomorrow, even after this happened. And step number 3, this is also a nice practice that is helping my. Sorry, can you guys mute yourself, please, because I can hear myself talking. So if you want, you can think about your past crises that you had in life. I bet this is not the first downturn, and this is not the first not very pleasant situation that happens to you. So if you think about the past bad situations that that happened to you, you will be able to reflect and recollect, what did you feel that time? And even if you can even remember what happened with your body that time. And then in the end, what is the most important, how did you find your foothold back? This because every person is very unique when it comes to coping with difficult situations. So if you discover your specific way, your personal way to cope with it, this will be definitely of big help for you. All right, now, like I always say, the best thing you can do for yourself is to develop a decent and realistic plan. So, and how to do it, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna tell you just right now. So, the first things first, you should start with the research. Research is extremely important, and there are several ways for you to do it. First of all, of course, you can just go and Google the industries that have promising job prospects. But what I do strongly believe in is networking and talking to people, because people are definitely the best source of information for pretty much anything in the world, I believe. And if by any chance you happen to have a strong network or a wide network, then this is definitely your chance to do your research. Speak to people, ask what they do, why they think, why they like what they do, why they think that this industry will stay prospective for the next couple years, maybe. And like that, you will be able to jot down some ideas on your potential next career move. Then what you want to do is to create correlations with your past experience. Like I said, your professional persona has 4 components, and definitely you have some professional skills that you've generated throughout the time that you worked for different companies and within different industry. You definitely have some hard skills that you've gained throughout this way as well. So what you want to do is to go and jot down your past achievements, and what do you think you're good at, and what you can definitely bring to the table, because that's what's the most important for the hiring managers and companies who are onboarding new people. What I also suggest is to take a professional orientation test. To be very honest with you, most of them are pretty expensive, so I wouldn't recommend them to be your only source of your research and exploration of your next career move. But if you feel like you're completely lost and don't know where to go, the good thing would be to define your strengths. My personal pick would be Gallup, and JobBQ is a great one too. But these tests are all online, and you can pretty much go and decide which one would work better for you. And the last thing is that now that you have some free time, maybe right now you're trying to identify what to do next. I bet you have some ideas of some side hustles, but the problem is that usually people, whenever they face whenever they have time to really realize those ideas, put them into life, they usually go and see how others do it. While this is not necessarily a right approach, the right approach would be to try to define your personal way to do it. And also, the good thing would be if you think about some side hustle, but you're not sure what exactly you want to do. The good thing would be to ask yourself two questions. The first question would be, what is that advice, or what is that that people are usually lining up to you for? So I can give you my example for when I was a couple of years ago thinking about any kind of business that I wanted to develop. I was looking at my friends. I was one friend of mine was selling jewelry. Another friend of mine was a cloth designer, and somebody else out of my network was and still is selling stuff for dogs, like leashes and treats and stuff like that. And I was looking at them and I was like, okay, well, they're prosperous and they make money, so this is probably a good field for me to look at as well. But I didn't realize that this is not my strength. I'm not a good salesperson, I can tell you. So for that, I had to really, so when I ask myself, what is that people are usually asking me about, what is my professional strength, I was like, okay, well, the people are usually asking me about resumes, career strategy, and job search and stuff like that. So apparently this is something I have to look at real close. And something that started as a side hustle for me, it's still continues, and I'm very happy I took this direction. Also, the other question would be, what activities make me forget about time? So as long as you identify something that people are lining up to you for, the next question would be, what activities make you forget about time? And if hopefully you will be able to identify a topic that that will bring you to the positive answers of those two questions. And this could be an idea for your side hustle. Here are some examples of career pivot. So if you're, like I said, we can see that the recession hasn't been nice to two industries mostly. It's retail and restaurant and dining business. So if you work in retail, for example, anything that you do, maybe you're a store assistant or a sales, representative, what you can turn into is inside sales representative. It's more of a corporate sales, and it's something that you will be basically selling some kind of software or some corporate products to another corporations. Business development, BDR stands for business development representative. It's another very prospective thing. And the good news is that even though there are a lot of sales people on the market, I can tell you that the demand is still huge for sales, and sales is such a big field that has a lot of possibilities inside. So business development representative works with the new clients, and this person potentially attracts the new businesses to the company he works for. And then operations manager, of course. If you're a store manager, then you can look at marketing, marketing specialist, anything account management, which is also sales, but working more with like existing customers, and really making sure that you build the professional relationships. Recruiter, why not? Because most probably as a store manager, you have been hiring some employees to your team. Office management would be a perspective field as well. Administration manager, HR roles, anything in HR like coordination or onboarding or payroll, maybe if you're into finance a little bit, and supply chain. Those would be the fields for you to look at. The next one would be bartender or waiter. If you happen to know anyone who was or still is in those positions and wants to change careers, advise them to look at administrative assistant roles. Again, BDR is business development representative. The good thing about those positions in sales is that they require not very, but pretty low entry threshold. So no specific education, no specific training is required. Great if you can afford to go for sales training. There are plenty of them online. That's amazing, but most of them are pretty expensive in most cases. So honestly, if you can get into the position without them, that would be even better, because salespeople usually learn by doing the job. But and that's great. So again, sales representative and recruiter as well would be something for you to look at. And if you happen to be in customer service, field area, if you're a manager, definitely you can look at account management as well. Anything in HR administration, but also a customer support engineer. It's a very in demand area within tech industry. And also support manager is somebody who who oversees the technical support department. These were just examples. Now, what's important to do before you do any kind of movement is self-inventory. And the common mistake that I see in most of the job seekers I work with, they start with the resumes. They start with their marketing information. They go do LinkedIn. They brush up their resumes, cover letters, and then they just start basically sending it over to all the positions they see online. This is an incorrect approach. The correct approach is to start with identifying what you're looking for, and then to do the self-inventory so that you know which gaps you have and how to fill them. So self-inventory is basically skills assessment. So each and every one of us has three different skills. Conditionally, we can divide them into three groups. So first group would be transferable skills, and some people confuse them with the soft skills. It's actually not the same thing. Transferable skills can be both soft skills and hard skills. So the examples for that would be anything computer knowledge. These days, even Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint, like all the Microsoft suite would be considered as transferable skills because most of the companies work with it. So those are basically portable skills. Those that you can easily carry from one job to another. And for example, like I said, the ability to use computer, the ability to manage your time, or etc. So the combination of soft skills and hard skills. While soft skills is actually your personality. So these are your personal traits, your attitude, your loyalty, your personality type. So for example, the ability to work to be a team player, then having a can-do attitude, or honesty, or enthusiasm, or your motivation, or anything that is related to your personality. And then technical or hard skills are those which are directly related to a job task. So basically something that you have to use on a daily basis in order to do your job well, but more on the technical side of things. So like operating a forklift, or code in Python, for example, or closing a sale or merchandise. So something that that is basically a part of your job description. Whenever you read the job description, you'll usually see they put usually hard skills first, and then they put soft skills below that. And again, some other examples would be closing a sales or merchandise, or designing a web page. These are the hard skills. So once you've done your self-inventory and you've identified which skills you potentially have, which skills you can transfer from one job to another, then what I suggest to do is to do some fun exercise, is to go job shopping. What is job shopping? It's a fun term that I usually use in working with my clients, and I suggest them to go and find from 7 to 10 job ads online. Of course, job ads have to be specific within a specific field and specific area, but we are keeping in mind that we've already done our research, we've spoken to people, and we kind of know where we're going and what we're looking for. So once you go out there, you should find at least 10 job ads online and analyze the requirements. Job shopping is fun because you don't have to be limiting yourself with a location. So you can just go, like, for example, if you're in national capital region, go to the US market, go to the European market, go to the, I don't know, Vancouver, or whatever. You don't have to limit yourself. So what you have to look for is similar and repetitive requirements, and you have to really compare the results with your profile. That's basically your gap analysis. So you put your yeses and nos, and like that you will see the gaps that you have, from where you are right now to where you want to be within the time frame that you put for yourself, the deadlines. So once you find out the gaps in your experience or knowledge, then you should ponder on how to fill them. And sometimes you might see that, for example, if you're transitioning from a store manager to a project manager, chances are you would have to have a certification like PMP or Prince2 or anything of that nature. PMP is just an example, but PMP is a great certification.
And just pulling it all up here so that way I have all the information for
Oh.
you.
Sorry. So it is a certification that is great to have if you are doing a project management work, but it is pretty time consuming to get. So like you have to work already a certain amount of hours. You have to show that you worked as a project manager before, and then you have to pay for exam, and it's not cheap, of course, as well. So what I'm trying to say is that once you identify the gaps, you have to really analyze if that's feasible for you, if that's what you can cover, and if you have resources for filling those gaps. If you realize that the gaps are too big, I suggest that you go back and do the research again and again, speak to people and do your Google research or LinkedIn research or something like that, because the gaps might be too big. Again, if you're ready for that and you want to take a course or go to take a course at Algonquin, or even go to the university, you can do that, of course, but it all depends on your resources. It all depends on the deadlines that you put for yourself as well. And then I put here, studying the competitor's profile is a good idea too. That's actually the way to do a research as well. And I find this way is a great one because it's very fast. So basically what you have to do is once you kind of know what you're looking for, you go to LinkedIn or other job boards and study the people who are also looking for the same position or who are working in the same position, and you see the companies that they work at right now and the companies they worked for before. Like that, you'll be able to construct at least some kind of list of target companies within the area that you are interested in, and this will give you an idea which companies are hiring people like yourself, or like people with the titles of your target, and like that you'll be able to build your job search strategy from there. So study the competitor, and it's still good to know who is there competing with you as well, right? The next one would be, like I said, you shouldn't start with this step right away. Before you get to the resume and cover letter in LinkedIn, well, you have to you have to do some good work before. So as far as the resume, of course, regardless of how strong your network is and how many good people you know that can help you, there definitely will be at a time that they will ask you to send a resume. So a good resume, and this is important too, a good resume should be written from what I'm looking for perspective, rather than what I have done before. Because most of the people usually write their resume just enumerating their past responsibilities or their past experience, or pretty much doing the copy paste from the job description. This is a very wrong way to do. What is a good way instead is to jot down all the skills that you have that will be applicable, that will be transferable to the role you're looking for, and put that on the resume only, without going too deep into details, and avoid putting irrelevant stuff on the resume. So your resume have to speak pretty much the language of your new position, instead of just encountering what you have done before. Same applies for the cover letter as well. And cover letter is actually it's supposed, some people also do cover letter pretty much copy paste from the resume. It's also not a very good approach. Instead, a cover letter is supposed to express your motivation and just make sure that that a person who is reading a cover letter wants to open your resume and wants to pick up the phone and call you. So a good structure of a cover letter would start with obviously your interest in the role, and then if you want to take couple of like the most crucial, the mandatory requirements from the job description and address them in your cover letter. Don't go again overboard. Just take like maybe 2 to 3 as a maximum, because cover letter doesn't it shouldn't be too long. People do not like read very long, cover letters and resumes, and it has to be also very well structured. And then in the end, if you have a very specific motivation to join in this particular company, then a good thing would be to mention that. If it's just another company that hires people like yourself, then just avoid this topic. What is also great to mention on the cover letter is that if you worked within a similar setup, let's say you're applying for a big logistics excuse me, logistics and supply company, and you worked with their competitor, for example, that's a good thing to put on the resume, on your cover letter as well. It draws attention a lot, because it will show the hiring manager or recruiter that you're the setup, and you'll be able to pretty much hit the ground running without extra training or something. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the #1 source for recruiters these days. And of course, recruiters use different channels, but I can tell you that that LinkedIn still remains one of the most effective professional social media for finding talents. And this is something that you as a job seeker should be using as well, because that's where the recruiters are. It means that that's where the jobs are. So brush up your LinkedIn, and of course, the first things first, you have to really make sure you complete all the you fill in all the information there. So like your picture should be professional, your summary, your title is very important as well, and your professional experience. Once you would do your resume, you can just copy and paste some parts of it to your LinkedIn profile. Make sure you also complete the skills section, because those are the keywords that recruiters are usually using to find you. Excuse me. The keywords are specific words or words combinations that are relevant to certain jobs or job descriptions. So like, for example, for a project manager, this could be project management, anything like PMBOK or PMP certification, or a certain budget of the projects that a person was managing in the past, or something like that. So these all has to be reflected on your LinkedIn profile. Now that you've brushed up your LinkedIn and resumes, you have to define the search strategy. And let me tell you something. The search strategy and the search channels that work for specific, for example, tech industry would never work for healthcare. So your search strategy should be defined and should be basically dictated by what you're looking for and which industry your target job is. So first of all, you obviously have to plan the time, and I recommend to be devoting as a maximum of 3 hours a day to applying and job searching, because you need to maintain your motivation and you need to stay sane from this job search. And I know the job search is very energy draining process. So within these 3 hours, and I recommend doing it in the morning before you started engaging in anything else, you should spend maximum 3 hours. Then define the channels. Like I said, different industries have different channels, so be creative and think where the recruiters and hiring managers would go and find people within the industry of your goal. Then you have to keep track of your applications, and it's extremely important, because you also have to maintain the relationship. So do not rely on your memory. Really go do the Excel spreadsheet, and this will help you to keep track of your applications. Like that, you can do the follow-ups, and like that, you can add or remove some positions that are in your current pool right now. And then try to maintain a positive attitude as much as you can. Like I said, I know that job search is not a very pleasant process, but try to maintain this positive attitude as much as you can, and switch activities. So do not, if you're doing cold applications all the time throughout these 3 hours, then make sure that you that you switch activities. So for example, you're applying for an hour and then you do informational interviews, or you do LinkedIn networking, or you do something else for another hour. Like that, you don't get completely like caught up within one of the same activity, and you're not as drained. Like I said, network is almost a buzzword these days, but it's extremely important buzzword. So there are different ways to maintain connecting with people and maintaining the relationships professionally, obviously. So LinkedIn, informational interviews, and professional groups. LinkedIn, it's never enough to say, it's #1 channel for building professional connections. Here, I would avoid too, salesy approach or asking for a job right off the bat. That's why I usually advise to all of my clients to remove this frame, open to work, from their LinkedIn picture, because it scares people away. Informational interviews is a great source of getting to know the industry and the company better. It's important to not misuse it though. So you have to remember that it's not called a sales interview or like hiring or getting job interview. It's an informational interview. So your focus of attention has to be not on the job you're looking for, but on the person that you're speaking with, whether it's a hiring manager or just an employee of a company that you want to get into. And then professional groups or associations is a great thing as well. So, for example, in legal world is a small world. Everyone knows each other. So you want to join those professional associations to make sure that that people know who you are and people know what you can offer and what you are all about. So that once there's something relevant to your profile, they can reach out. So the whole idea of networking and maintaining relationship is basically to help you to spend less time on the job searching. So once you've established your connections and even worked on your personal brand, which is also a big thing these days, these will work for you. So once it's like all the people are dreaming about having the business. They think that once they have a business running, they'll be sleeping and the money will be just, coming and knocking their doors. So this is pretty much how it works with networking. Once you have good network that really knows who you are and supports you, you can be offered different wonderful opportunities. And this is something also interesting to know. So let me cover some trends of the industry trends and job trends of 2021 and obviously beyond that. So marketing. All the businesses are now bringing the competition to online. So marketing is a big thing. They're actually competing for our attention. That's why a good marketing specialist is now super valuable for many companies. Tech industry, it's needless to say, that's gonna grow and even more, especially like data and AI. Artificial intelligence is if you've ever done anything data related, I would recommend looking at technologies like Power BI and anything artificial intelligence related, like R language and Python and stuff like that, because these are very prospective industries. Now, if you're in health by any chance, then I would recommend looking at health tech, because look what's happening. We're not even visiting doctors these days. We can do the telecommunication with the doctor and like just give them a video call and that's it. So the health tech is basically a field that merges healthcare and tech industry. So anything IT will be incorporated into healthcare eventually, and we're going there. And then renewable energy, it's becoming a priority for many governments and many countries. So most likely we will see growth in the green energy space as well. So those five industries would be the most prominent and the most prospective industries of 2021 and moving further. I think this will be about it from my side. I would be definitely happy to expand more on anything I've covered today, or if you'd like to ask something beyond that, I'm here too. So it's Q&A time.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Elena. Talking about pivoting during a downturn. We've got a few questions already, so we'll just get right into the Q&A.
Sure.
Marianne asking for any suggestions for dealing with ageism in the job market.
Ageism. Oh, actually, that's a great question. Honestly, throughout my entire career, I've only heard about ageism in obviously building career and getting jobs, but I've never experienced it because I honestly think it's more of a myth these days. And again, if we're talking about, for example, consulting, this could be definitely something to look at if you're if you're more of a senior professional, because you already have some luggage of knowledge, you already have some experience. So consulting, and Ottawa is very, very heavy on consulting business, especially given that government has still has like 70% of the market, I think. I would look at consulting. That's one thing. And if you're looking to transition to a different field, the steps are pretty much the same. Just go, check what you have to offer, do the gap analysis, and then and start using the network. I would say in order to make sure that this problem doesn't come and doesn't arise, I would use networking predominantly instead of the cold applications, and avoid the job boards and like I said, cold applications. So networking is the thing, and consulting too.
Okay, thanks, Elena. Allison's asking, you mentioned that a good resume should be written from what I am looking for perspective and not what I have done what I have done before.
Yeah.
Sorry. So what does that mean you include in a resume? How is it structured exactly then?
Mm-hmm. So I recommend that definitely you start with a short summary. Then you move down and describe your key skills and expertise, and like that, you can even divide it into, like I said, technical skills of yourself, and then some skills that are industry specific, and maybe some even job specific, like communication, negotiation, strategic planning, or cost reduction, or anything of that nature. And then depending on what you want to emphasize, you put either professional experience right away, or you put the education. So like, for example, if you're doing a career transition, you might not necessarily want to really draw a lot of attention to your irrelevant professional experience, even though of course you should write you should describe your professional experience from what is relevant to the potential job perspective. So sometimes you might want to emphasize your education first, and then you put your work experience before after that. Sorry. So a good resume is an easily readable resume, first of all. So like avoid playing with different fonts, especially if you're applying through the job boards, which are equipped with applicants tracking system, which is a nightmare for many job seekers these days. I know that people are struggling. This is basically a software that serves as a filter for recruiters, that scans the resume instead of them. So like if your resume is not ATS friendly, it will not be able to digest it well, and the recruiter would not even see it. So for that, you have to avoid columns. You have to be like, again, stay away from playing with different fonts. No tables. and colors as well, not too many colors on the resume.
And also important how you talked about how LinkedIn could potentially be a big extension of your resume and how important that is. I don't think I've updated mine in 10 years. So thanks for that part as well.
Yeah.
Paula
No,
asks,
okay.
are any outlets for networking while everything is online for a while? So it does kind of make it hard to be able to mingle in a room. So what are some good outlets for networking online?
Mhm. No, definitely, and that's a good question because the world is moving online, and I think we'll see this tendency for many months ahead. So we have to deal with it somehow. But the first things first, start with the informational interviews, and this is basically it's basically when you reach out to somebody who works at a company of your interest, or who is an industry leader, or somebody who basically you think can give you some information about what you're looking for. And you'll be super and basically reaching out to those people and asking for these 10 to 15 minutes Zoom chat or even phone call. That's about it. I know that these in interviews is that kind of a jump out of the comfort zone for many people, and it's okay, but you will be surprised, like once you try it, if you allow yourself to try it, you'll be surprised how receptive and how responsive people are these days. Everyone works from home, everyone is sick and tired of working from home and like staring at the computer. People love helping each other, and people are pretty, like I said, responsive these days. So informational interviews would be one thing, and the other thing would be some associations, like I said, professional groups. Even join some discussions on Slack, for example. Slack is a huge has a huge amount of different channels of different interests. So like, for example, if you're a legal professional or accounting professional, find a thread or find a group where all the professionals like yourself mingle. It's the same mingling, it's just not the face to face, it's an online mingling, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So join those, and then there's one thing that I'm still exploring. It's called Clubhouse. I'm not sure if anyone heard about it. It's a new one, a new startup that was I think the founders are the folks who invented Instagram and TikTok somehow, or written or something. So it's basically an audio based social media where somebody who has something to share comes and shares the information, and he or she can invite people to listen to that and comment on that. So this is the reality. We just have to be creative on that, basically.
And I find people are getting more and more used to it. It's not as awkward as it used
Yeah.
to be when we started this 10 or 11 months ago.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, once you keep yourself up with the trends, with the industry trends, you'll be surprised how many different ways do people find to actually mingle online.
Hansika's question, I hope I said that right. Aside from health tech, is there any other sector in the field of healthcare that you feel will show more job growth in the next year? When you were mentioning those trends, which was really interesting.
So when I said health tech, I was when I was actually preparing that slide, I was mostly thinking from the perspective of what is just being developed. I honestly haven't heard anything in particular about healthcare, that like within the healthcare, any other areas. What I see though is AI. AI is also getting in pretty much every industry. And so we, like, every day if we open news and read some stuff on AI, we see that the robots are already showing empathy, and like the Uber that a couple of years ago, I think they tried their first car with no driver and stuff like that. And I'm sure there is definitely something happening within the healthcare industry as well with AI. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but honestly, I haven't heard anything too specific about healthcare. I'll probably have to dive deeper, but that's what I see.
And they can always just reach out to you afterwards, Elena, as well. That's good.
For sure.
Yeah. Sloan says, I was told after an informational interview recently to be sure and communicate myself and my great energy in my cover letter. Can you recommend a way to do that while being professional at the same time?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I always recommend that you do not use the templates for your cover letter and resume. It's kind of time consuming at the very beginning when you're just constructing your, let's speak about cover letter, right? When you're just constructing your cover letter, because it's, you have to spend time and you have to like really, think about what you're gonna write there. But in the end of the day, it works way better because this helps you to express your personality and gives that sense of who you are and what's the best way to approach you and what you are gonna be as an employee as well. If you've written it from scratch instead of using the templates. So I think this will be the best way for you to do it. And then another tip would be to revisit it a couple more times. So like once you've written it, maybe go like, I don't know, like sleep and read or do some other activities, come again, read it again, even loud, and see how it is being perceived. If that's transmitting the message that you want to transmit. I am not I'm not a big fan of being like I'm afraid to sound unprofessional, but I'm not a big fan of trying to hide your personality behind being super professional and polished, because people work with people, people hire people, and your main task on an interview and before you get an interview is to really show who you are, so that the company can already evaluate whether it's going to be a fit for you or not, and the opposite, of course. So two rules here, like I said, write it from the scratch, and revisit it a few times. I know that actually there is another cool idea that I've implemented with one of my clients pretty recently, and she got a job because of that. She was able to beat 65 competitors, by the way, because of that, the creative move that we did. So we recorded the video, and video is becoming almost a new normal in hiring. And I'm seeing a lot more companies that used to be conservative in that way, that are actually super receptive and super willing to see these creative approaches. So think about it. If you can record a video of, instead of writing a cover letter, like upload it to YouTube and send a link to the hiring manager, big chances are that you will not be left unnoticed. So what we did was 1 minute only, and my client briefly spoke about her experience and how motivated she was to join the company, and this worked like spectacular.
I hope that answers your question, Sloan. We have quite a few more to get to, but if you don't want to do a video for a cover letter, how many sentences should the letter be? Like I've seen really long ones or 4-sentence ones. Like, is there really a formula?
I would say there's no formula. It really depends on the industry and the company. So for example, again, if you're in legal, I think they're used to reading long descriptions and long text. So it's just easily perceived, more like easily perceived by them. Whereas if you're writing if you're writing a letter as an executive assistant, for example, to an executive who is going to be a hiring manager, you'd better be more straight to the point and more concrete. And of course, when it comes to tech industry, which is my favorite one, I wouldn't recommend going too long with the cover letter. I would be very, very specific to the job description, just like literally addressing what's required in the job description, and that's it. As far as the sentences, there's no, I don't have any amount of like number of sentences, but I would say four paragraphs would be more than enough.
Great. Wow. 4 paragraphs. That's pretty.
Depends
Stephanie
how
has
long they
another.
are.
Yeah, exactly. Stephanie asks, I left my job of 11 years to care for my young kids, mainly due to childcare issues during COVID. Any recommendations on how to explain the gap in my employment when I'm ready to re-enter the workforce?
I have a question to this question.
Okay.
So throughout this time, did you do anything? Did you learn anything new for your work? And did you meet anyone who is in the same field? How are you keeping up to date with the trends?
Okay.
So I think that partially answers the question, because that's also my advice to the students who are coming out of the university thinking that the degree will get them a job, and they're like, and when it doesn't happen, they're pretty upset. And the same advice would also be applicable to the new moms who will, obviously take the maternity leave of at least a year. And then they're getting back to work. So as much as you can, going, if you know you're not going to be working for a certain period of time, you have to really think how to keep yourself in shape. You have to think whether you can help with some projects to your neighbor, I don't know, or maybe you can you can develop your leadership skills, being leading some projects or anything of that nature, or you can brush up your communication or negotiation. Anything that will help you stay in shape will basically help you to get back to work smoother.
Is it wrong to assume that everyone will just be understanding because something is COVID related, or do we need to stop assuming that just because everything is being blamed on COVID?
Yeah, exactly. I would say, again, aren't you getting a little bit annoyed these days when people are using COVID as an excuse? This is COVID is definitely not helping us, but in the end of the day, especially if you're looking for a job in a private organization who is primarily business oriented and making money oriented, you have to carry some value for them to hire you. And they honestly, I'm sorry to say that, but they honestly do not care whether it's COVID or not. You have to bring something to the table. It's just that, like, it's as much as it is. So yeah, I mean, COVID hasn't been easy for many industries and for many people, but as much as you can, if you can keep yourself, in shape and up to date with your profession, even with these difficult circumstances, it's pretty much, I guess, the responsibility of every one of us to do that, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. If there are no other questions, Susie had said, does a gap need to be explained when the job loss was due to COVID? Which
I would say on the resume or on any kind of material, no. But on an interview, you will
Sure.
probably you will most probably ask, and it's okay to tell the truth. I'm always against of lying on an interview. Obviously, you can play with some nice self presentation, but if there's something that that happened, or the gap, it should be explained. And honestly, many employers, as long as you are still getting through the interview well and you're well prepared and you're still a good professional, a gap is not as scary as many people think.
Okay. Another question from Susie, just to take us to the end. Do you think it's beneficial to take online courses and fill the gaps with professional development?
Yes, absolutely. It also, like I said, it depends a lot on your budget and your timing. And the good news is that COVID, actually, a positive thing about COVID, it has opened up a lot of free online learning opportunities for for many people. Coursera, for example, it offers a variety of different courses, and this is a great way to actually to fill in those gaps in your knowledge. If you're not familiar with any, like if that's hard skills gap, for example, then for sure that's the only way you can get familiarized with. Just go out there and learn, take some course. Again, if we're speaking about the college or university, it will only depend on how stable you are financially, and like what your deadline is, and if that's okay for you to do at this point of time.
Great. All right. I'm still thinking about this video cover letter you were talking about. It's like, oh,
I know,
I got to remember
it's
that.
amazing. I know, and some companies already require that. So
Oh, wow.
I know one of my clients, she's an HR assistant, and she's looking for her next HR assistant job right now in Toronto. And one of the companies, like, it was a requirement when the application, there was a field to attach a resume, and you assume that the next field will be to attach a cover letter, but no, there will be, please insert a link to your video or upload the video presentation. Some employers would help you. They would just give you some questions, like what's your approach to work, or like, I don't know, why you're motivated to join the company, blah blah. But sometimes you have to be very creative yourself, and just think of what is that you want to transfer, transmit about your personality and your work attitude within that cover letter.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That wraps up today's event. Thanks to Elena and all of you. We've got a link to a survey if you could fill that out. It's just in the chat there. Feel free to reach out if you have any more questions for Elena. Our next event is February 23rd with Dr. Deb Thompson, Build Your Resilience. Thanks for joining us again this afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elena.